Yo, what's up guys, welcome to my humble YouTube channel where I bring you fanfiction that will brighten your days. Before we start, a subscribe is greatly appreciated, and don't forget to leave a like and ring the bell icon so you won't miss exciting new fanfiction stories. That time I got Asaki'd as a slime. DanmachixTTIGRS by awalker0641. Chapter 6. Meeting a very old god. Well, I need to bite my tongue sometimes. The half-elf brought us to the guild and we went inside, where we met a really mean bowling bull named Royman. Man, that guy was a jerk. I swore Hinata was ready to cut him down and I would have let her. Him being all smug. What was it he said? Filthy humans. Oh man, that rubbed me the wrong way. Are the other elves here like him? Just a bunch of jerks? Man, I hope not, because I'd like to go to this world's elf's cabaret. But at this rate I doubt there is one. He lead us through a passage to a dark room with a single chair with 4 torches surrounding it. And on that chair was a grandpa in a black cloak. Huh. Is he like an oracle or something? Less than notice. The man in the chair is a being with power equal to Veldora. Greater than wow, seriously, that is one strong old dude. Lord Oranos. The bowling ball kneels down with a fist over his chest where his heart is supposed to be. I have brought the guests you asked for. The old guy looks at me and Hinata and then waves his hand. Thank you, Royman. You may go. Royman gets up and bows. Thank you, Lord Oranos. Then he leaves us with the elderly. Oranos looks over at Rimuru and Hinata. And may I know who you two are? Rimuru and Hinata look at each other and back to the old dude. With a curt bow, Rimuru responds, I'm Rimuru Tempest, leader of the Jura Tempest Federation. Hinata follows the same action as Rimuru. I'm Hinata Sakaguchi. I'm the leader of the S10 Great Saints of the Western Holy Church. The aged man nods his head in response to them. I am the god Oranos. Rimuru turns to Hinata with a questioning gaze and whispers. Did he just say he's a god? She returns his gaze back at him. Yeah, I think so. So does that means he's like Ruminus? A self-proclaimed god? Why don't you ask him yourself? With a nod of agreement, Rimuru turned back and questions the half-dead old man. So, are you really a god? Or are you claiming to be a god? At this, the old guy just looks at them with some scrunched eyebrows. Do you not believe that I am? Your friend seems to serve a god. Rimuru just shrugs. Well, her situation is complicated. I mean, she serves a demon lord that proclaims to be god to get free blood. And it's just that I met people who were worshipped as a god. It just kind of mixes together into a haze of who is and who is not a god. With Rimuru response, the old self-proclaimed god's brow relaxes. So you need proof that I am a divine being? Rimuru glances at Hinata and just gets a shrug. Well, sure, I guess. At this, a powerful aura surrounds the elderly guy. I guess I'll have to take his word for it. Do you believe me now? Sure. I guess I'll have to. It seems to have a different color to my demon lord Haki. But it still is oppressive. Then the decrepit god reigns in his aura. So what are you doing here in this world? Obviously you are not from here due to there not being a Jura Tempest Federation or Holy Knights in this world. As Hinata was about to respond, Rimuru lifts his hand to stop her. We'll tell you, but should that being be hearing all this? Hinata just shoots him an inquisitive, cold gaze. However, before she can say anything, there is a slight chuckle coming from behind the stone which the chair sits on. From the shadows comes a man clad in a black cloak with metal gauntlets. Hinata looks at the man and reaches for her blade. At this, the gray-goateed god raises his hand to stop her. He is Fels. The only person in my familia. He can be trusted. There is that familia word again. The black cloak figure stands beside the stairway to the throne. I guess I should greet you properly. I am Fels. He greets them with a bow. I am amazed you knew I was there. His voice is neither male or female. Well, I recognized your aura since you followed us from the 35th floor and then left us on the 18th. At this statement, the senior citizen god eyes widen in response, and if a shadow hadn't covered Fels' face, he could be seen slack-jawed. However, to Rimuru and Hinata, it was just another day. When they resituated themselves, Oranos once again questions why they're here. In response, Hinata points at Rimuru, states that it was completely his fault. That is not true. There was a 1% chance that this could have possibly happened. Still, it was your magic that you wanted to try out. So, you agreed with it. Yeah, I did because you said it was completely safe. And it was. We are still alive. Yeah, alive in a different world with no way home. All I need is some time to reformat it and then I'll get us back home. Yeah, and by the time you do that the whole world will be at war because we are gone. We don't even know the time difference between here and at home. Exactly. Before their argument could continue they were interrupted by the slowly decaying corpse on a chair. They stopped and looked at him. So if I understand this correctly, you cast a teleportation spell that went haywire and you both ended up in the dungeon. Now you need to rework your spell to get back home. They both nod in agreement. I see. And how long will it take to do this? Rimuru puts a finger to his chin, thinking. After a second he responds, well, to make sure we get back perfectly safe and near our starting location. Raphael, estimate about 2 or 3 years. Hinata looks at Rimuru in shock. Wait, you said 3 to 6 months. I know, but this estimate is without outside resources and not making contact with anyone to get an exact location to where we can safely make it to. Do you want to end up as part of a wall or halfway in the ground? Because I sure do not want to. At this notion Hinata scrunches her face in dissatisfaction at the idea and just sighs in defeat. The old god just nods at his assessment. I understand. If you had extra resources you would be able to go home quicker. Rimuru nods in response. Fells. Do you believe that you can lend them some books to aid them? At this Fells seems to give a nod in agreement to him. Yes, I believe I can be of service. In response to this declaration, Rimuru closes his eyes a little bit. We will be glad to have your help. However, I expect this is not out of the graciousness of your hearts. What is it that you want in return? At his response the very aged god directs his attention to him. I will ask for your aid at certain times. I believe that you will be able to help us with the amount of strength that you have displayed. At this Rimuru agrees. Is there anything that you need to know before you leave here? At this Rimuru and Hinata nod. Can you give us a brief description of this world's history and some other knowledge about this world? As Fells leaves to get the books that they will need, Oranos gives them an overview of this world's history. In a brief summary of this explanation follows. Humans were needing help as usual. So some gods came down because they wanted to help. Others were completely bored out of their immortal minds and decided to descend and build up things called a familia to fill their boredom. And so this has been happening for 1,000 years. They sealed their powers inside of their body and they are not allowed to use them unless they have permission. If they do use them then the well gets sent back to Tenkai. At this point our protagonist's mind started to wander, weaving in and out of consciousness, listening to this long story that can be repeated by the wise king and having specific details mentioned to him at any given time. He nods every now and then to act as though he is paying attention. The monotone story just goes on. The things he does pay attention to is about some dragon that is threatening the world and how the strongest familias lost it and then got the boot just like an incompetent employee. Now the strongest are Freya and Loki familia. At this point in time Rimuru realizes that there are multiple pantheons interlinked that share the same similarity to that of Earth's history, and how it is extremely likely that the myths of old are likely a part of this world. Of course, while thinking this he does not listen to the rest of the explanation. As the monotone story ends, the nearly expired god asks if they want to know anything more. They shake their head no, because they did not sign up for a 5-hour history lesson. At this Oranos tells them that they will be given a place to stay with the books inside for them to read and study. Also, you will be permitted to use the guild service of exchanging crystals into money due to your otherworldly nature. Usually you need to be in a familia, but since you have already exited the dungeon and people have seen you, it will draw less attention. All that I ask of you is that you do not draw too much attention to yourselves. The note in Fell's hand will allow you to use the guild's service. At this Rimuru and Hinata bow after receiving the letter. We are extremely grateful for your help, Oranos. They leave behind a corpse and a very old god or a couple of old corpses. When they left, Fells raised a question to the god. Is it wise to seek their aid with helping us? To which the god replied, yes. Those women are very powerful, and if we cannot keep an eye on them, who knows what god will try to take them. And if it is by force, then Orario may burn. Fells just nods in response. As Fells was going to leave, a question came to mind. Wait, Oranos looks down at him. Did she just say his fault? As Hinata and Rimuru left the room and are walking in the hallway, they start to discuss what they have learned. So that's what a familia is. A group of people who have a god's blessing to adventure in the dungeon. Hinata looks at Rimuru while he says this. Yeah. It's probably best to try and steer clear of them. It may only spell trouble for us. Rimuru just nods while sliding his mask over his face. With a sigh as they exit the hallway, Rimuru come up with an ingenious idea. After we get our money, let's get coffee. Hinata nods in agreement with a yawn. They go to the counter where the half-elf that brought them is currently talking to a white-haired kid. And that is how you become an adventurer. Just join a familia and come back. The kid nods eagerly, says thanks, and runs out. At that, the half-elf sighs and turns to the next in line. So, what can I do for you two? At that, Hinata hands her the note. While the elf reads the note, they look around and notice that there are a group of people looking at them. As Hinata looks at them, one of them quietly whispers, I want her to step on me. Hinata gets a shiver down her spine when she hears this response and turns back to the half-elf. I understand your situation. My name is Aina and I'll be your guild advisor. If you have any questions, need help, or quests that are issued, then come seek me out. Thank you, Miss Aina. I'm Hinata Sakaguchi and this is my Isekai Rimuru Tempest. We'll be in your care. Can you tell us where we can turn in our magic stones? Aina nods in response. It's a pleasure. You can turn in your stones over there and any drop items you have. You can also sell drop items to local merchants. Also, there are quests posted on the board over there if you want to complete any quests posted by familias. Here is your key and the location of the place. And welcome to Orario. With that, Rimuru and Hinata say thanks. Rimuru turns to go to the counter to turn in their magic stone, but Hinata stops him. What's up? What are you doing, turning in our magic stones? Without a bag? It will be suspicious, especially with all these people looking at us. It dawns on Rimuru that they do not in fact have a bag. Then he questions the sanity of this world because they walked all the way up from the 37th floor without one and nobody questioned it. He nods, I see what you mean. We'll need to get one and come back. As they turn toward the exit, they see it is blocked. Excuse me? Can you move? Sure, just let us see your face. It's pretty rare to see, and with a swift kick to the groin, Rimuru and Hinata start their venture into the labyrinth city of Orario. Letter to a goddess. While our little slime and totally cold babe are listening to the brief history of this world, a hungover, lonely, no-boobed goddess receives a letter. Loki. You got a letter, Oya. I wonder if it's from my AZ Poo professing her love for me? As she snatches the letter from a member of her familia, she opens it up to read it, and reads it again, and again. She stops, looks up, blinks, and reads it again. Loki, no, this is not from Eyes. It's Finn. We ran into two people in Riviera and we are not sure who they are. They took down multiple level 2 and 3 adventurers like they were nothing but a slight breeze that bothered them. One has black hairs and eastern black eyes. She wore all white with red. She had a black undershirt and gloves with what seemed to be a first-class sword. Her partner wore all black with yellow highlights and wielded a katana that also appeared to be first class. She has silver blue hair. However, she wore a white mask that covered her face. It had a red dot in the middle and black lines flowing down from it, with a black line near the area of the mouth. We asked for their names. The black-haired woman is named Hinata Sakaguchi, an Eastern name. The other is named Rimuru Tempest. However, before saying her name she paused as though she made it up. Yet, it sounded genuine when coming from her. When we asked if we would be able to see Rimuru's mask, she agreed. To describe her would take a lot more writing than the time I have for. All I can say is that she has the beauty of a goddess and acts similar to that of a noble or king. She has golden eyes and porcelain skin with thin pink lips. You will know who I'm talking about if you see her. Now, I would normally pass her off as another adventurer. However, they did not appear to know our name, our title, or even our familia name. It's as though they have just arrived and did not know of us. I know that we have a lot of renown in the world. I also know we should be known by most nobility. So, I ruled that possibility. However, we should be well known to other adventurers. That only lead me to one explanation, and I hope I'm wrong. Loki. I believe that Rimuru is a goddess and that Hinata is a member of her familia. It is the only logical explanation I can come up with at this time. That is why we never heard of them before and they have not heard of us. She has unrivaled beauty compared to all mortals. Her mask even suppresses her aura. She was wearing that while in the dungeon and she paused before naming herself. Her member beat all of the people who tried to extort money from them and they took their money as payment, and my thumb was aching, bad. I am hoping that you understand my concern. Normally I would dedicate some higher level members to watch them. However, we can't spare any members due to us trying to reach the 60th floor. So, if possible, can you get some of the lower level members to watch them if possible? Also, can you use your connections to find out who they are? I have a feeling that we will need to find out who they are and fast. Finn. After Loki finishes reading the letter for the final time, she sets it down on her table and thanks the member that brought it to her. Was that eyes, Loki? After a couple of seconds pass, Oh no, she shakes her head, that was from Finn. Ah, I see. Was there trouble? Loki shakes her head in response. She then turns to the member and tells him to gather up some members and look for this Rimuru and follow her. With a nod the member runs off. As Loki turns to her window and puts her hands to look out to Orario, a grin appears on her face and her eyes squint, making her look like a fox. Well, time for Detective Loki to search for some clues.